Hi there. We continue coming to you from the Job Summit, and we found somebody who knows what they're talking about to come and have a cup of tea with us. I mean, believe it or not, Rufaro and I are having tea. Well, I'm having tea. I don't know what's.
I'm having coffee.
You, Irish coffee.
Sure. Just coffee.
This is Roy Chimanikire, the Deputy CEO of Econet. Welcome.
Thanks, George.
You're looking dapper.
Thank you.
Replacing
for the occasion.
Replacing Tinashe.
Yeah.
I don't know if the cameras can pick up your socks, but Tinashe will be proud.
Is he a happy socks kind of guy?
It's a colorful.
Yeah.
Colorful.
one of the fans have said we should start calling him Say Colors.
Oh, is it? Okay.
So Roy, you've been speaking in the conference.
Yes.
What did you talk about?
So I was really talking about the digital economy and the fourth industrial revolution, or what we call 4IR, and how that is going to transform the workplace in a way that we have never really perceived before, but also in a way that we can only imagine right now. So some of the things I was talking about, I was joking and saying, remember when we used to watch Michael Knight and Knight Rider, and that was cutting edge at its time.
Yes.
It would be glued to our screens. I was saying, I look at my watch, and when someone calls me, I can. And very soon, with 5G, maybe you might have some driverless cars, and I'll be hailing my car from my watch or my phone, and
Like Knight Rider and Kit.
the kids, yeah.
Well, the technology exists already.
The technology exists, yeah. That's the critical thing.
All the big tech giants. I mean, this is your passion. All the tech giants have driverless cars
So
that are driving.
full self-driving software just went into wide release in North America. And they're hoping to get regulatory approval. So what you're talking about in terms of driverless cars,
It's happening.
Is not
It's
science
already
fiction
happening,
anymore.
yes,
Yeah.
Airplanes land
Yes.
and take off by themselves
Yes, yeah.
now. And they have less accidents than when we used to control them.
Yes, true.
Okay.
But I think the major focus of what I was saying was when young people look at opportunities for the future, they need to actually be thinking of how do they train up for a new economy that works very differently to the economy that you and I grew up in.
And so what do they need to do?
So, one of the things as well that I was trying to expand, and I think COVID has demonstrated this to us, is with the advent of mobile open online sort of education, these very high impact degrees and programs that are being done by your top universities. We have access to them now, where previously we didn't have access to them. And I'm aware that this week the University of Johannesburg launched a robotics and AI faculty within their institution. So governments and all communities are creating an ecosystem where they are trying to find the new labor force of the future. But also, I spoke about the demographics of Africa, that by 2050, we will be the largest continent by population. Nigeria will be the most populous country in the world.
Wow.
Not the world, sorry, it will be the second after India. So
They're going to overtake China.
they're going to overtake China.
So China's
And that's
shrinking.
the critical thing, because they've got an old population.
Mm.
The average population in Africa are teenagers.
Yes. The median age is 20 or something like
20, yeah. Zimbabwe is 20, and the north of us is actually 17, 18.
that. Wow. So do we need to change our whole curriculum?
Well, I believe, with this change, we need to transition for the future. So what we need is almost like a blueprint of what the next 30 years looks like. But the curriculum that we're taking right now is probably redundant for the kind of person we want in the future. So I know the Deputy Minister of Education spoke about Education 5.0 and how we're trying to take advantage of these kinds of opportunities. But I think what's happening is the acceleration of that change is coming at such a fast pace that the way we need to transform has to be much faster than what we are doing. Right now, we already need some of the skills that we don't have, like a data scientist. Our local universities are not producing them. The South African university, which is sort of the biggest sort of reference point close to us, are not producing them either. We're not yet at that level. Even the world over, people are struggling to find those kinds of relevant skills. And that's what we're talking to young people to think about. How do you come into this economy and create opportunities for yourself?
So with the pace of change accelerating, can we have a clear vision about what's going to be relevant and important 5 years from now, 10 years from now? If you looked at the world at the turn of the century in 2000, the biggest companies globally in terms of market cap and value were banks and oil companies.
Yes.
If you look at the top 10, top 20 today, it's dominated by tech companies, names such as Amazon and Microsoft and Google. What do you think it's going to be like in the next 5, 10 years?
So from what we're seeing, because what's happening with this change is exponential. It's not linear. I think the first sort of 3 phases of human development tended to be a little bit more linear. Your first industrial revolution, and if you look at the period it was taking to get to the next phase, and if you think about even in Zimbabwe, we were launching data probably in the mid 2000s, thereabouts, and that's not so long ago. But look at where we are now.
Can you remember how slow it was?
Yeah, it was very slow, but we didn't really use it for anything. If you think about it, it was checking an email, once in a while.
That's true. That's
But
true.
now it has become almost like water.
Yeah, it's ubiquitous.
Yeah, Wi-Fi has become almost like a basic human right, where anyone who is not connected is basically excluded from the economy.
Okay, so our young people need to get ready for this. But what about you and I? Right? So we went to university and did, all three of us went. Okay, last week we were saying we didn't go to university. we did courses from home that taught us to do debits and credits and to post things.
Yes.
And yet now,
Software does it better than humans.
Yes, true.
yes, I mean, we've developed, the company I was working for previously in Zimbabwe, we developed in-house a bot or a little clever bit of software that would recognize emails from our business partners, open them, extract the invoices. So if it sees an email with invoicing at Zesa or whatever, it knows that that's a bill. It would open it. It could read the bill and post it.
Yeah.
Zero human
You don't
involvement.
have data capture clerk anymore. You don't have someone reconciling because it's all done electronically.
So what do you and I do? Well, okay, you got a nice cushy job at Econet. Maybe you could hire us. Rufaro and I are now trying to crack jokes on TV, maybe to salvage our careers.
One of the things we have done for investing in massively is we've opened online universities internally. And we're saying that everyone needs to rejig their whole training again, rejig the mindset. So I have to take courses in artificial intelligence, in cryptocurrencies and all that sort of, which are certified courses, by the way. And I'm not leaving my desk, so to speak. And we've got tracking mechanisms, how much time must each employee spend on all of this. So if you take it seriously, what it means is that you and I really have to redo what we know and rethink. But a lot of it is just changing your mindset.
But I don't work for Econet. I don't have access to these courses that you have at Econet. How do I?
You don't, but they are much cheaper than now going to a university. So what we need to be doing here in Zimbabwe is to make these things more accessible to a wider group of people, because it doesn't actually cost that much compared to the children that we're sending, to foreign universities, and you can imagine flights and all the things that's happening. So it is accessible to us at a certain level, and I think it's something that we all need to be thinking about, because we are fast being outpaced by the pace of change that is happening around us.
Can I find some of these on YouTube, maybe?
Yes, definitely.
For free?
You can find some for free, but what the top universities are doing now is they're curating material, online, sort of high-end sort of programs which are widely recognized. So you can get maybe entry level for free, but maybe what you need to do is to invest in an MIT kind of designation online, so to speak.
Okay, so we're busy trying to build a university in every province right now. Putting words into your mouth. You're saying, stop that. Stop buying bricks and cement.
Buy computers, buy bandwidth.
And get the right people to come and set this thing up.
Yeah, one of the interesting things we spoke about with the deputy minister, we were saying most people come out of universities are taught by academics. They're actually not taught by the people who actually are at the core phase of some of these things. So the university model itself, I'm not saying, brick and mortar won't be relevant, but what I'm saying is the model of how we think about the product that we are producing out of the university needs to change. And we may not have access. If you look at the professors and people who are trained here, we may not have access to what's happening in Silicon Valley. And our people need access to that kind of knowledge. So it's not about what someone learned maybe 20 years ago doing their PhD. It's about what the young people in some of these economies are doing now and how that can be replicated and how we can get into that economy. Because a lot of this technology is not being developed by professors.
No, none of it is being developed by professors.
Yeah,
I think
look at these
of
billionaires, they're not
Bill Gates
professors.
is a high school dropout. So was Zuckerberg. And they
but
built
the Google guys were PhDs, right?
they dropped out of a PhD program. They actually were doing a PhD, and then they dropped out and they set up Google.
But most of these big companies have been
Most
developed.
of them are people who just had an idea, stuck at it. Yes, they had a good level of education. I'm not saying they didn't, they were illiterate, but the mindset that they had transformed something which maybe may have been a simple idea into something that has changed the world. So a lot of the children or sort of teenagers and young adults who are being taught now need to have a mindset that they can actually create at that level.
And what's your impression of the youngsters you're getting now coming out of universities, coming out of colleges in Zim, and perhaps in your other markets? What's the sense you get? Maybe talk about Zim and then talk about the other markets. I don't know how much you have, access you have to the business, your group's businesses in other countries.
I can reference what's happening. What we've generally tended to find is you have a good foundation, but it's a foundation. You have to build on it. And what you have to do now...
You mean we can read and write?
Not quite. I think they've got a technical skill.
Mm-hmm.
But what is being demanded now is not just a technical skill. Remember, the technical skill is based on a body of knowledge, maybe which was in vogue maybe 10 years ago, really. But what is happening now is the body of knowledge you need to learn is being created and co-created as we speak. Are learning. So you need to be in that economy where you are part of the co-creation process of that body of knowledge. And it's not coming through journals written by people in some scientific weekly or whatever it is. It is people who are actually doing things and testing things. And some of the stuff is mind-boggling when you think about what people are doing and the things they're experimenting with. So they need to know what people, even if it's not yet there, what are people thinking? What are they experimenting on? And why is that important to us? So when you talk of this thing like, for example, gene splicing, where now we can change DNA, we can create new creatures. Is that the kind of thinking that our young people are understanding? That it's not about understanding that, you've got this formula and this is how it works and everything. That you can start to question whether the formula needs to say that way. So it is really, stuff beyond science fiction, if I can call it.
And you're saying we don't have youngsters that are thinking like that?
We don't have youngsters with a sufficient level of exposure to think like that.
And I know you guys are hiring from the diaspora. Can you compare and contrast with the Zimbabweans you're getting from the diaspora?
One of the things that we're doing, because remember there's a lot of Zimbabweans in the diaspora. So, and one of the things, we met with some of the guys who are doing the Rhodes Scholarship. And what are we talking to them about? How can we get even an attachment? Because, people to settle in Zimbabwe, there's a whole lot of factors involved. How can you get even an attachment program that brings people from the outside, where we get a cross-pollination, where our young people are actually interfacing with people who are doing different things in a very different sphere. So
thank you.
So for our programs, what's lacking to a large extent is just the exposure to know what is the world like and how is it changing and who is changing it and what is happening. I've found when I've traveled, I'm in the tech space, but I've been confounded sometimes when I see what other people are doing. You walk into a restaurant, the robot comes and seats you and says, come on, sir, I'll show you to your seat. You sit there and says, what's that?
D2.
RTD2 or whatever it was called.
Yeah, in Star Wars. Yeah.
You press a button, he says, okay, I can take your order now. What would you like? You key in something and, it goes. Another robot comes with a tray and says, you are tray 1. Customer number 2, you are tray 2, you take off your food, finished, the robot goes away. No human interface. So you can imagine, if me seeing it is different from me describing it to someone.
Yes.
I need to experience it for myself and also feel the energy and the pulse where people are creating things. That energy and vibe is something we do not have.
Wow, that's mind-blowing.
So
But then-
I've got a question, because one of the things that I think is an opportunity from a Zimbabwean perspective, and I think a few months ago I came across this conversation around people coming out of the accounting firms, and basically a lot of them actually do remote work out of Harare for firms all over the world for hard currency. All you need is a computer and bandwidth. And the market for remote work is massive, and it's a hard currency market. But I don't get the sense that there's this huge drive to take advantage of the opportunity there. So maybe as somebody who's at the epicenter of the bandwidth game, what are you seeing on that front? And to the extent that we're not fully attacking this opportunity, what do you think is holding
Holding us back.
Holding us back.
So one of the things I've seen is the nature of our construct of our legal and policy environment was created in a way that we have borders. We can protect ourselves within those borders because we make certain rules and regulations that avoid us either getting competition or products coming into our jurisdiction. But what is happening now is that those borders are being erased. So policy which used to work before no longer works. And when you look at tax policy, how governments raise money and all that sort of stuff, that is also being, it has to be rethought about, because there are different ways in which now people are finding, as you're saying, they're actually no longer working in Zimbabwe, but they are but they live here. Mm-hmm. And that massive sort of talent attrition that we are facing, because now they're not available to our local markets. Mm-hmm. I think we have a lot to think about in terms of.
And Zero is not sniffing a cent of their income.
That could be an issue as well.
I was thinking about it today actually. So we get this 1.9 billion from diasporans every year, and that's a big number. Mm-hmm. But do you realize that we're only getting a tiny portion of their income because they're consuming where they live?
Yes.
And coming to what you're saying,
so that means so that means even if you were to put it on a normal tax rate, that means our diasporans are probably earning maybe $10 billion combined for them to be able to remit close to 2 billion.
Correct. Yeah. But they're spending
the balance of that
$8
in another economy. Yeah.
But if they could work from here,
it makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference. And what we find is our diasporans are not necessarily just low-level employees, because there are people who are doing significant things at a world scale as well. Mm. So we're not just talking about, sometimes when we think of diaspora, we think of the guy who's sending $10 home and whatever, that sort of stuff. There are lots of people who could actually have a transformative effect on what we are doing here locally. Yeah.
Roy, I know you've got a panel.
Yeah, have to.
So we must release you. But
thank you.
Please
thank
do
you.
swing by the studio. I know you don't partake in wise waters as Father and I do. But Tinashe often has some interesting
that's good.
coffees and teas.
Yeah.
Which we like to call heated shrub juice.
No, that's good.
Yeah,
It's been great chatting to you guys. Thank you very much. Yeah.